Okay. I think we are going to get started. I also want to apologize on behalf of Sir Collins. He's not he's not going to be able to make it today because unfortunately he's not feeling well. So, but the good news is we have Dr. Benson here and also Lara Guruji-Oderinde. They will serve as co-host for this program. So my name is Jumoke Akin-Taylor, and I am with both organizations, Rebuild Nigeria Initiative and Africa Leadership Group. Rebuild Nigeria Initiative is a sister organization for Africa Leadership Group, and we have two distinctive roles that we play. I'm not going to speak too much about those two organizations, but really why we're here. And we're here because most of you here, we've worked together for the past 20 years on diaspora matters, and we've really been speaking about what we should do. And some of us have taken action, but we just really believe this is the time for us to really come together as a united diaspora front to be able to make the changes that we've all been fighting for over the years. Working siloed, we've been really siloed in our efforts, and we've made some progress, but it can't be as impactful as what we do together. And what brought this on, this diaspora collaboration for this election and beyond? A couple of weeks ago, we had Professor Jega on the Nigeria Leadership Series, which is an initiative of Africa Leadership Group. And he talked about the efforts that INEC has been making over the years for voters' education. And but he mentioned something that struck a chord in me and said the rural areas don't have access to this information because they are not on social media, they don't have internet or just technology. There's this technology gap. And then it occurred to some of us that we have access to all the rural areas in Nigeria because that's where our relatives are. That's where we send money. And we call them, even the grandmother in the farthest part of the village hears from us. So how can we use that power that we have to educate our people to vote for the right leader? This has nothing. We're non-partisan here. We're not advocating for any political party. We're advocating for Nigeria. And how do we get that Nigeria that we want? It's through this collaborative effort. So we want to have this conversation today, see what we can do as Nigerians in the diaspora to work with our siblings, and I call them siblings, back home on some of these initiatives, pre-election, during election, and post-election. And we have quite a few speakers that would also be giving us an update on the current situation on ground, and that would help inform some of the actions that we're going to take. And the other diaspora leaders are here as well that also will be speaking about some of the things that they're doing. And at the end of this meeting, we want to come up with some key action items of what we can do together to really effect these changes that we're looking for. So I am going to pass over to Dr. Benson and to Lara for them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started on the agenda. Thank you. Dr. Benson or Lara?
Hi.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning from California. My name is Lara Guruji-Oderinde, and I am part of the African Leadership Group, as well as the Rebuild Nigeria initiative that Sister Jumoke just echoed out, so I won't say much about that. And equally, I funded another organization called Jewels of Africa Foundations. Basically, we have been in operation since 2013, trying to augment the non-functional educational sector in Nigeria. So I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today. Anything impactful is always great. It's not what pumps me up, and I thank everyone for setting aside whatever the busy schedule might have been this weekend for us to come together, rub minds together, and see how we can really influence this upcoming election and make our voice known and not be silenced just because we don't have the voters card. Just because we're not in Nigeria doesn't mean we don't have a huge role to play in this. We can influence from behind in a huge way. So I thank everyone for attending.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good. There's still some noise, and maybe people can please mute themselves if they're not asking a question. Thank you. So I'm Joan Benson, and I'm based here in the United States, just like Lara, my sister here, Lara, and we have a vested interest in what happens. Please
mute yourselves if you're not.
Go ahead. I'm muting them. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I have a vested interest, just like my sisters Jumoke and Lara have a vested interest in what happens in Nigeria, because at the end of the day, Nigeria is home. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has chosen to join today. And I'm looking forward to a very productive, constructive discussion. And excuse the baby in the background who is making some noise here. Thank you.
It's the next generation. It's the sound of a new birth, a new beginning for us. So very welcome. I'm going to, without taking too much of your time, Mr. President, the chairman of Africa Leadership Group and the president of Rebuild Nigeria, Pastor Ito Ighodalo, he would be speaking to us on the state of the nation. Actually, the opening remark is from him on the state of the nation. Mr. President, over to you, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's good to have you all here. This very wonderful new year that we're here. And I've been asked to speak really on the state of the nation and what we're going through in Nigeria right now, and so on and so forth. You can feel the palpability of the tension in Nigeria at this point in time. Let me first of all speak to the economy. I don't know why it is like that, but the ruling party has now decided that maybe because of politics and political reasons to slow down the economy as much as they can. And the two instruments and tools that they have used to do this is monetary policy. First of all, a changing of the complexion of the naira. Okay, they've changed the complexion of the naira. Now the naira is a little bit different in its color in the various denominations: 200, 500, and 100 naira. Okay, they didn't bother with the 50s and so on and so forth, or they didn't bother with the hundreds. I can't even remember which ones they changed. Okay, and 1,000, 200, 500, and 1,000, they changed. The second thing is to reduce the amount of cash that anybody can withdraw out of the bank at any time. I think it's down to like 20,000 or so. And therefore, you found for the first time in Nigeria, long queues in the ATMs. You found also fisticuffs in banks, people really fighting very hard in banking halls. And for the first time in my life, I'm down to my last 3,000 naira cash as I speak to you right now. So we have to be very ingenious in the way we've managed our resources in Nigeria. I went to Abuja, and for the first time, I didn't carry any cash. I had to be begging people to transfer money here and there for me, for my hotel, for my taxi and everything. And my staff have banned me from doing monetary transfers myself, because they say that if I was able to do transfers, I would spend all the money that I have in my bank. So now my secretary is my treasurer. He keeps all my money and thus transforming. Of course, the economy has slowed down considerably. People, especially in the rural areas, are crying, they're complaining, they don't have cash, and so on and so forth. And then we're discovering in various homes, bank vaults, and places like that, hordes and hordes and hordes of naira, and so on and so forth. So much so that the APC is now quarreling with itself. Bola Tinubu is angry with Buhari and saying that all these things are deliberate to squander or to dash his own ability to drive a political process. And therefore, his campaign over the last 1 week has been vitriolic against Muhammadu Buhari and shouting and complaining that some powers that be in Aso Rock want to scuttle his chances of being the next president of Nigeria. And he has said that they will fail. So it's very funny and ironic that the House is totally divided against itself. And it's as though Bola Tinubu is campaigning against Buhari. But meanwhile, Buhari is not really on the ticket. Buhari is not running for office, and so on and so forth. So who the campaign is against, we don't really understand. But this is where we are in Nigeria, a serious slowdown of the economy, challenges everywhere, difficulty everywhere. The third form of slowdown is, of course, in the petrol queues. In the petrol queues, there's no gasoline easily available anywhere in Nigeria. Maybe after you've queued for a couple of hours, you get gas or you buy it on the black market. So somehow they have removed subsidy, or if they have not removed subsidy, they've made it effective that you are now buying petrol or gasoline at some crazy prices. The third or the fourth, of course, is the crazy price of diesel and power. You know, in the past, 400K a month would give me adequate diesel supply in the church. Now it's about 1.6, 1.8 million naira. You get diesel supply in the church. So my accountant every month is very, very happy to send to me, this is our invoice for diesel this month. I've told you to stop spending so long in church. You must go home on time. You spend too long time in church. So 1.8 million, should I pay or should I not pay? I know it's a subtle threat that, you know, we really have to begin to look at our expenses, you know, and of course, inflation is out of the roof. Inflation is out of the roof. Another campaign point that Bola Tinubu uses against Buhari is that when you came in, Naira was 150, 200 to 1. Now, on your exit, it is 800 to 1, and so on and so forth. Very, very, very interesting times. From the political front, it looks as though there is some kind of feeling that the powers that be in Aso Rock have a preference for Atiku Abubakar. That's the rumor all over the place. And Atiku is strategically looking as to what he needs to do to take over the government in May. But the dark horse of the race, a gentleman called Peter Obi, seems also to be gaining advantage. Some of the poll results, strangely enough, seem to push him marginally ahead of the other two. And the campaigns are going on very strong. People complain that he has no structure. People complain that there's no money flowing in his campaign. People complain that a lot of people are dissatisfied within his camp, and so on and so forth. But then the public reception of him is phenomenal. He's almost becoming a cult hero, a rock star everywhere he goes. Should these people really have PVCs, and should they vote, and should the votes be translated and properly counted, anything can happen, even in the north, where they say he has no following. It's very, very interesting that all these things are happening. So politically, we're really, really at the edge right now in Nigeria. And a lot of us are praying that there will be stability. We're praying that the elections will hold. We're praying that there will be no violence. We're praying that the outcomes will be free and fair and a true reflection of the wills of Nigerian people. People are asking that the students be given vacation because a lot of them must have registered in their homes or wherever they lived so that they will be allowed to vote and they will not be edged out. People are hoping that as many people as possible can pick up their PVCs. From time to time, you get reports of abandoned PVCs in hordes and numbers all over the place. People are hoping that there will be no violence on that day of the elections. So really, really right now, everybody's focused in this direction, and it's a very tense wait and see period, and wait and see what's going to come. Those who are able to travel out, who can afford it, some have escaped. As a matter of fact, I know a lady who wanted to escape, and her husband held her down. You are not going anywhere until you vote. After you vote on the 25th, then if you want to take the last flight out that day, you can go. So these are the kind of conversations that are taking place in various households. And of course, you're having the various debates that are coming on. The Electoral College, partnering with us, is hoping to have a debate later on this month. And we're hoping that we'll get at least the Lagos State gubernatorial aspirants on the debate that day. National debates here and there. People are questioning why people bother to go to places like Chatham House when they have not faced the electorate here in Nigeria. So very, very, very interesting times. In terms of insecurity, we're still having the usual insecurity tensions. People are still getting missing. The other day, some Catholic bishop was absconded, rumored to have been killed all over the place. People are having challenges going to the market. IPOB is still ruling and reigning in Southeast Nigeria. Monday is still a sit-at-home debate as to whether to release Nnamdi Kanu or not, and how it will affect political outcomes. I'm sure is top of the line in that conversation. The press is having a field day, all sorts of conversations, and the ever-creative Nigerian youth are blasting the airways with their different kinds of social media interventions. They've acted a film on Peter Obi on social media. They are picking on Bola Tinubu a lot with his different kinds of gaffes that he makes on his political campaign trail, calling somebody Senate, meaning to call somebody Senate president, or former vice president, calling him Senate president, and so on and so forth. I read, ironically, is Atiku Abubakar that has been most reticent of everybody, just seeming to have some strategic calmness and focus on his campaign at this point in time. But nonetheless, there's a lot of brick and brack between his people and the people of the APC, threatening each other with all sorts of corruption charges, allegation, drug pushing, and so on and so forth. Very, very interesting times indeed. The owners of Nigeria have kept stoically silent. The most conversational of them, again, being Olusegun Obasanjo, who keeps writing letters and keeps commenting from time to time. But people like T.Y. Danjuma have not said much. IBB has been strangely quiet and calm. There's rumor that he may even have left the country. Abubakar Abdul-Salam also has not said much. And all the other people who have been sort of like behind them have not said much. A lot of satellite is also being turned to religious organizations, the Christian body. What's going to be your reaction to a Muslim ticket? What are the fathers of faith saying? The churches obviously are divided at this point in time. No clear direction from any of the churches at this point in time. And the Muslims are also keeping very, very stoically quiet and watching and waiting. And everybody's thinking that when push comes to shove, they'll need to divide their votes between the two Muslims or the three Muslims, including Kwakwanso, if you put him in the reckoning, that are on top of the table. So this is where we are in Nigeria. Palpable tension, a bit of anxiety, a slowdown of the economy, and people wondering, is there going to be a change in Nigeria come 2023? We'll watch, we'll wait, we'll see, but above all, we'll be praying. But what we need to do on RNI and what we're also trying to do on ALG is to continue our discourse, okay? Continue to educate the people, continue to tell them that we can't lose hope, continue to ask them to exercise their civic responsibility, and above all, continue to ask them to vote for competent to vote for energy, to vote for passion for Nigeria and compassion for the citizens of Nigeria, to vote for corruption, to vote against corruption, and to vote for good conscience as to who really among the 15 or the 16 can really help Nigeria at the time, who has the energy, who has the competence, who has the compassion for the people, who is the least corrupt of them all. I can say that a lot of people have had to go through the shores of corruption in Nigeria one way or the other. Nobody is a saint, but who really is the least corrupt of all these people? Who really has the national progress of Nigeria at heart? And who can we trust in the next 4, perhaps 8 years to steer the ship of state of our great nation? This is the thinking, this is the hope, and this is the prayer. For those in diaspora, what can you do at this point in time? Number one, continue to support with your resources, your people. I'm not even saying support a political process. Support your people because they really don't have money in their pockets at this point in time. Continue to send money home if you can afford it. Number two, continue to encourage and inform and educate your people on their need to exercise their civic rights and to try and vote, especially those who have PVCs, not to sit at home or sit on the shelf. Number three, continue to do your social interventions in various aspects and areas of Nigeria, medical missions, boreholes, educational support, and so on and so forth. Continue to intervene in terms of comments and in terms of social comments and commentary in the affairs of Nigeria. Number four, turn yourselves into strong blocks that can intervene in our economy when the time comes. It is reputed that the health sector of India was initiated, instigated, and thrown open by Indian doctors in the diaspora. The agricultural sector of Malaysia and Singapore had a similar experience. The civil service of Singapore definitely was instigated and inspired by diaspora, and so on and so forth. There's so many areas in which a group of diasporans working together, or a single diasporan, who knows? One of you is reputed to have bought Gatwick Airport. Who knows? Can come into Nigeria and change the dynamics of the economy of this great nation. And most importantly, continue to preach peace, stability, advocacy for good governance, advocacy for reconciliation, which is one of what RNI is known for. Reconciliation, peace dialogues. How do we bring people together to sit on the same platform and walk a way forward for this great nation, Nigeria? All I know, ladies and gentlemen, is that Nigeria will be great again. Thank you very much for listening. And I don't know if I've done justice to what you expected me to talk about. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know Dr. Adelaja is on and he has to leave. Can you just give us about 3 minutes of your time? Dr. Adelaja.
I will be very glad to. Well, first, let me thank the team at Rebuild Nigeria, especially my friend, Pastor Godalo, and my friend Jumoke Akintillo, for all the things you've been doing to make the voices of Nigerians count in Nigerian politics. I also want to thank the Africa Leadership Group and all the partners involved in this mobilizing diaspora engagement dialogue for your foresight and commitment to Project Nigeria. I only have a few minutes, so I'll highlight just a few points on why this meeting is so important. First, in the 60+ years since Nigeria came into existence as a country, in my opinion, it has not yet once, had the type of leadership that it deserves or that will allow the realization of its potential. The people who are knowledgeable and they have passion have largely been crowded out of the political space. Second, while Nigeria's culture and values have historically been very strong and resilient, politicians have figured out a way to make them malleable, flexible, and built on mediocrity. And the outcomes are some of the things that the pastor just talked about a few minutes ago. Third, many Nigerians have become so disenchanted and complicit that they've allowed this coup d'etat to happen. Some are actually so compromised that they're willing to sell their votes for just a few dollars. I think that to transform Nigeria's political landscape, the diaspora must have a strong voice. We're typically well-educated. We've earned the respect of our adopted countries. We have appropriate financial clout to incentivize change collectively if we so desire. We also have external political clout that can be brought to bear on Nigeria's current leaders. Fifth, there are dire consequences for us, for our collective reputations, and perhaps even the future of our children and grandchildren and generations to come, if Nigeria does not feature strong and committed leadership very soon. As a scholar of socioeconomic and political transformation, one who monitors closely the vital statistics on Nigeria's stability and survival, I can tell you without hesitation that if change does not come in the current or next political cycle, the world would have to deal with one of history's most explosive national disintegration. And then finally, I want to commend you for coming together for this dialogue. But more importantly, I hope that we will go beyond complaining and reviewing what's happening and begin to lay down concrete strategies that would impact on upcoming. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adelaja. Kunle Lawal from the Electoral College is here. Can you also speak for a couple of minutes? And then we'll hand over to Amina Miango, the Nigerian lawyer that is going to take us through the electoral process and what we need to know and the information we need to communicate with our relatives back home. Kunle, can you speak for a couple of minutes? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Big Sis, and it's a pleasure to speak here. I would first like to commend everyone for their love and passion for Nigeria, and I'd like to commend the ALG, Rebuild Nigeria, and every other organization that's part of what's being done presently. So Nigeria and the diaspora. To give context to this, I'd like to explain my life because I participated in on different levels. So I once was a national publicity secretary of a political party. I also was a candidate in 2019 for Senate in Abuja in the FCT. And then now, of course, I'm the executive director of the Electoral College. As a candidate and as a party member, one of the key things I recognized with Nigerians in diaspora is that they're the real political godfathers. So I know most people want to explain, I want to ask, how is this totally possible? And I'll explain. So you have those godfathers who we see as godfathers who just appear randomly during elections, and they disappear for the next 4 years. Now the Nigerians in diaspora are always there to step in for Nigerians when they need house rent, they need food, health issues, etc., etc. Even getting to relocate some of them become migrants in their own adopted nations. So I believe the Nigerians in diaspora are the major godfathers in Nigerian politics. This is also to state that Nigeria actually makes the most money, and this is higher than crude oil, from remittances from Nigerians in diaspora. So why should Nigerians in diaspora not be concerned about Nigerian politics? I feel it is something that is the path forward. And I'll say something. While running for office in 2019, the best donations I got were from Nigerians in diaspora. I ran quite a crowdfunded campaign. We were able to raise about 39 million. But the greatest gift Nigerians in diaspora have to present to Nigerians is that they understand a system that works. So they can get to translate this backward. Now, the average Nigerian, sad to say, as we've seen within the Electoral College, is fully concerned with political literacy, which we've dubbed literacy. If there's anything you have a problem with, at least you guys know that. Okay, let's say you're in the US, a mayor, his job, his functions, how he's supposed to be accessible to people. The greatest problem of governance in Nigeria is the distance between the elected and the electorate. And that's wherein the problem lies. And I think if there's anybody that understands this concept best, it will be Nigerians in diaspora, who of course can interact with their mayors, their councillors, and the people within the national and the Congress. And we don't have that. So I can tell you the average Nigerian just thinks Nigerians in the National Assembly are supposed to deal with constituency projects, which are totally unconstitutional, which is giving executive power to the legislative. And, nobody's concerned about what bills they come up with and what is being done. I would say a big charge, this is a welcome development, seeing, if I continue discussing, we could go on and on how diaspora could help our country, Nigeria. But I would say a little push in the right way for political literacy, a lot of other things. I feel the Nigerians in diaspora have the biggest control over the most problematic class in Nigeria, which is the middle class. Now, most people would like to say it's the grassroots. I would explain from my participation in politics and the fact that I deal directly with politics. I'll make two things clear. There can be no transfer of money to the grassroots from the elite to the grassroots without the conduits known as the middle class. The middle class is the one that determines how this money is transferred. So the people were to capture, or the people were to redirect, actually is the middle class and not the grassroots. Thank you, everyone. And I look forward to a great conversation. My pleasure.
Thank you. So maybe you would do one of those classes for the diaspora group, political literacy. You probably would hold a class for us at some point.
It will be my pleasure.
Okay, wonderful. See, I just put you on the spot. Thank you, Kunle.
My pleasure.
So we are going to move now to Miss Amina Miango. Thank you for doing this, Amina. And I think you do better justice introducing yourself than I can. So Amina, you're up next. If you can just take us through the electoral process, and so that we are equipped with information. And the reason we're doing this is because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we want to be sure that our people back home have the right information. So Amina is going to walk us through INEC guidelines and what to expect. Go ahead, Amina. Do you need to share your screen? I made you co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
Yes. The problem is my lights just went off, so you may not be able to see my face again. We're in Nigeria. I'm so sorry about that. But I'll share my screen. Yeah.
You're echoing. I'm not sure if you have two devices.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Amina Miango. I'm a Nigerian lawyer and I've worked in elections for over 10 years.
Good morning, Victor. Doing good.
As a lawyer, as a researcher, and as a facilitator. It's good to be here. I have 30 minutes, so I'll try and just run through. Sorry, you can't see me. That's because lights just went. I hope everyone can hear me. So I'll be talking about INEC guidelines and election monitoring. The topic was actually meant to be INEC guidelines and election monitoring, but I added observation because technically only INEC can monitor its own elections. Every other person just observes, yeah? So that's why I added observation. So we're talking about observation, not really monitoring. Elections are legal activities because they are created by laws, and the number of laws that create elections and how elections should be carried out, what should be done, when it should be done. The laws provide for who can contest for elections, the laws that, oh, thank God there's light now. Laws that provide for who can vote at elections. So everything about elections, the creation of law. And so before you dive into elections, you must understand the legal framework that guides elections. And part of our major topic is regulations and guidelines, INEC regulations and guidelines, which are a major part of what forms election legal framework. The INEC regulations and guidelines are a product of INEC's powers to create laws and regulations. Sorry, let me not use law. Create regulations to guide its activities. So when we talk about election legal framework, we're going to concentrate on three main documents. There are a lot more. There are international instruments that Nigeria is a signatory to, which have to deal with elections. So we're not going to go into all of that. And there are other regulations created by INEC too, which deal with political parties, the gender policy documents, and a whole lot of other documents. So we're not going to look at that. We'll just concentrate on the three documents and then go straight to the point because I have 30 minutes. So the three major documents we're going to talk about are the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and then the regulations and guidelines for elections, for the conduct of elections. Now, the Constitution is the ground norm for those who are lawyers. The ground norm basically means that it's the document that every other law in Nigeria basically gets its power from. So when you talk about the Constitution and elections, you look at sections 153(1)(f), which creates INEC and other agencies of government. And then you look at paragraph 14 and 15, which gives INEC the powers to conduct elections, powers to create, register political parties, and so on and so forth. So you can't talk about elections without actually talking about the Constitution. The Constitution is also where you find qualifications for people who want to contest for office, for president, for governor, for Senate, for State House of Assembly, and for House of Reps. So all these things are gotten in the Constitution. It is also where you find disqualifications for people who want to contest for office. So the Constitution is like the all and all. And then apart from the Constitution, you have the Electoral Act, which is created from the National Assembly's powers to make laws. The Constitution says the National Assembly can make laws on a wide range of subjects. And one of such is elections, yeah? So the Electoral Act is basically an expansion of what the Constitution says the powers of INEC are. The power to register political parties, to conduct elections and all that. So the Electoral Act basically breaks it down into how INEC should go about doing these things. Then under the Constitution, you also have INEC being given power to create regulations, yeah? And that is where the document we're going to talk about today comes in, the INEC Regulations and Guidelines 2022. There were other documents in 2020, before then, 2015, before then, 2011. But the present one is the INEC Regulations and Guidelines for the Conduct of Elections 2022, which was created because the Electoral Act, we changed. We got a new Electoral Act in February 2022. So because the Electoral Act changed, the regulations and guidelines too had to change. So these documents are what are the basic documents in the election legal framework. Now, under the regulations and guidelines, it further breaks, regulation and guidelines breaks down every election activity from voting all the way to when results are collated and when a winner is announced. So, and the document is bulky. I think I shared it. So maybe it will be given, it will be shared.
Yes, I'll share it with everyone. And even this presentation, okay, if you could also share it with us so that everyone would have a copy of it, that would be great. Thank you. I'll share that.
Yes, that's fine. So the regulations and guidelines, it basically breaks every step of elections, from what you do, from what happens when you get to the polling unit and you tell them you want to vote and you join the queue and say, I want to vote. The document is, it's not, well, it's a few hundred pages, but you can read it just so you get to know what happens when people go to vote. So I highlighted 3 things that I think everyone should know, since we are almost in about 21 days, we'll be going to elect the new president and new National Assembly members. So I broke it down into elections, persons eligible to vote, accreditation and voting procedures at elections, and then collation of results. Now, elections, it is not every election that INEC conducts, yes? Because there are 36 other election management bodies in Nigeria. INEC is just one of 37. So the elections, when we're talking about general elections, we're going to have 4 different elections: the presidential election, governorship elections, National Assembly elections. Sorry, 5. I merged the Senate and House of Reps together. And then the State House of Assembly elections. So the first thing you get when you open the regulations and guidelines is that these are the elections which the regulation and guidelines apply to. So if Lagos is going to conduct local government elections, Lagos will have its own regulations and guidelines. But for the purpose of the 2023 elections, that is what the regulations and guidelines only apply to general elections. And then because INEC also conducts FCT area council elections, it also applies to that election. So you have a total of presidential, governorship, National Assembly, State House of Assembly, and FCT area council elections. Then we move on to who are the persons eligible to vote. Just because you're registered to vote, you may get to a polling unit and then you can't find your name on the voter register. Maybe because during cleanup, you registered twice, or underage voters or something. So the people that are eligible to vote at this election that is coming are: 1, you must be a Nigerian. That's the basic foundation of even being allowed to register to vote. You must be a Nigerian. Then to vote in an election, you must be a registered voter. So if you've not registered to vote, you can't wake up on election day and go to a polling unit and fight anybody that you should be allowed to vote. You can't vote if you've not registered. Then thirdly, your name must be in the voter register. So like I said earlier on, there are categories of people that actually went to register to vote, but somehow maybe during cleanup, some weeks ago, we had the cleanup of the voter register, where people were told to report claims and objections. If you have any claim as to my name wasn't spelled correctly, or you have an objection to somebody being on the register of voters, you report to INEC. So after all that cleanup, of course, some people will be removed from the register. So yes, your name must be in the voter register. And then more importantly, there are people who are registered to vote, but have misplaced their PVCs. I always advise, if you registered and you have a PVC, stop carrying it in your wallet or your bag. Yes, it is a valid form of identification, but you can scan it on your phone or make a copy and carry that, but don't carry your PVCs because it's very easy to misplace it. And without a PVC, you cannot vote. Nigeria is not at that place yet where you can flash any ID card and vote. You have to present a PVC. So these are the persons eligible to vote at the forthcoming election. Then on election day, after everything, let's say you're eligible to vote and everything, election day comes, you go to the polling unit, you present yourself and you say, I want to vote. These are some of the things that will happen. When you go to vote, you'll be told to present your PVC, and then to vote, you must go through the accreditation process. Now, accreditation in Nigeria used to be manual before, and then in 2015, Professor Atahiru Jega introduced the smart card reader that brought in some sort of technology into the process. Then that process, it was good, but it also had its own issues, because some people may present themselves for the smart card reader used the card, the PVC, as they used it for accreditation. That's what was the foundation of the smart card reader. Then after the 2015 elections, 2019 elections, same thing, the smart card reader was used. After that, INEC thought, we need to move on from this. I mean, there are better technologies for elections. And since the law isn't allowing electronic voting and all of that, at that time, we're still using the 2010 Electoral Act. Since the law wasn't allowing all that, we need to find a better system. So INEC engineers and others sat down and then they came up with the BVAS machine. So basically, the BVAS is what is used for accreditation now. You go there to, you either use your fingerprint or your face to verify the voter when you present yourself. But don't forget, you need to present your PVC before you are even allowed to verify and accredit. Now, accreditation and voting starts at 8:30 and ends at 2:30. Before now, people will come in the morning, accredit. The process was, different. You come in the morning, you accredit, then you go, or you go and sit down and you wait. Then after a particular time, you come back and vote. But now the system is merged. You go, you stay on the line, you accredit, then you collect your ballot paper, you go some print and you drop it in the ballot box. So it has made the system easier, because in those days, you go for elections and people accredit and then they'll go to the farm. People in rural areas, election day, whether it's election or not, they have to go to their farms, yeah? So they'll accredit and then they'll go to their farms. By the time they come back, elections will be over. So this system now, which INEC refers to as the continuous accreditation and voting system, where you do accreditation and voting together, has improved the process, because you can just, people come, if you've monitored elections in rural areas, it's really fun. If you've monitored elections in rural areas, they'll come, they'll finish their voting, and then they'll go to their farm, or they'll just sit down somewhere and drink their local alcohol. It's usually really fun. So yes, you use the use of BVAS for accreditation is mandatory. Before, I like doing like contextual analysis, because there was a problem, and I want to show you how INEC has fixed it, or how INEC is trying to fix it. Before, whenever the smart card reader broke down, they'll probably give you incident forms to fill, and then they'll go ahead and do manual accreditation. Now, manual accreditation is no longer allowed. You must use the BVAS machine for accreditation. Where the BVAS fails to accredit you, you cannot vote. That's the law now. And this is based on section 147.2, I think, of the Electoral Act, which says that INEC can use the smart card reader or any electronic machine to accredit. So now, no accreditation with BVAS, no voting. So where accreditation fails, a person will usually, in fact, a person will not be allowed to vote. That has been the rule. And it has been done in Osun, it has been done in Ekiti, it has been done in Anambra, and a lot of other off-season elections. So I'm just trying to rush through because I have 30 minutes. I hope I'm not going too fast. We come to collation of results. I love collation of results. Yes?
Amina, if I may interject, before you get to collation of results, can you speak a little bit more about BVAS? I think Lara has that question properly phrased in terms of the issues. Maybe
Okay,
going back, if you could just emphasize what we need to communicate about those BVAS, what we need to really understand about the BVAS process. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may add to that, the clarity around how it works and what we need to sensitize our people around the accreditation when they get to the polling booths, what they need to watch out for, what they need to do. That would be really, really powerful for us to know. Thank you.
All right. So first things first, tell them to bring their PVCs. They must bring their PVCs to the polling unit. That's the first thing. Yes. And then how the BVAS works is that it uses two methods to accredit. Your face, facial recognition technology, or fingerprint. But because a lot of rural areas, most of them are farmers and laborers and all that. So you find that in most situations, that was one of the problems with the smart card reader. In most situations, the fingerprint may not work because farming and hard work has basically peeled it off and all that. So the face technology is also used. Usually we have to, INEC falls back on using the face technology. A picture is taken, it has a camera, a picture is taken, and usually, during the last voter registration, people were told to upgrade their registration by uploading smiling pictures and pictures of them frowning. So basically that's the aim, that was the reason.
Amina, did you freeze?
I think she probably did.
She froze for a minute.
Let's give her a minute and then, and I can add some more colors to what she just said.
Yeah, she froze. Go ahead and add colors.
Yes.
For her to
yes. So basically what we were trying to get out of Amina is to really sensitize us with the needful information in light of the Osun elections and the way the saga that is going on at the courts right now. I think it's very important for us to know what to communicate to our constituents and our networks. And what I mean by that, pretty much our dependents, the people that we send money to, the people we do one thing or the other for in Nigeria, since we can vote. But I think we have a powerful voice and a powerful influence on this voting, and the things that they need to be aware of in light of what just emerged out of Osun State, which I think is going to be really a blessing in disguise that it happened just now, so that people will take the accreditation of those of the BVAS, of the PVC very seriously once they go to the polling booths, making sure that you are accredited on that machine before you go cast your votes, and making sure that they don't only cast their votes, they stay there to make sure that the recordings of that machine is really posted, and they can take it. They go with them, and that's part of some of the things we need to tell our people to go with their phones, take pictures, and use the social space to communicate what's going on at their polling booths. And so each of us have that responsibility to use this period. I think the next 20 days or how many days is left to educate and to call, use our Zoom, whatever we have, to call people to meetings, Zoom calls, and educate them around what they need to do before, how to vote. Yes, we need to tell them to go with their minds, with their senses, to cast the votes, to observe what's going on in the ecosystem, to vote for people who are credible, competent, with character, and with soundness of mind. All of those, put that into their decision making, because we can guide them between right and wrong, and let them, so that that Nigeria can be a great place, as Mr. President started us with. So let's make sure we do that part, our part with, number one, they need to be ready to vote right. Number two, they need to go there and make sure that they're accredited on the BVAS machines before they cast their vote. Number three, they need to stay and make sure that the collation happens at their polling booth, and they take a snapshot of the numbers and share it online. And that's really, I don't know if Amina has come back.
She's back, and she will be speaking about during elections and post-elections as well. Amina, you're back. If you can just run us through it because of time. Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit from what Lara said, you can't actually, taking your phone into a polling unit is actually not allowed, especially to take pictures when you're voting. It's actually not allowed. You're not allowed to use your phones there. So they may have to find other creative ways of reporting, what they see. The BVAS technology basically uses, like I was saying before, uses fingerprints and then facial recognition. And it's, as long as 10 people are accredited, there's a place it stores that number. It saves the number. So if you like, accredit 50 and then you allow 100 people vote, it will be there on the BVAS. And wherever there are numbers that go beyond what is accredited on the BVAS, that election will be cancelled. So you need to tell your people this too, because local politicians tend to want to inflate numbers so that it will be like, oh, okay, we gave this politician 200 in our place so that they can get some sort of benefits when the person finally gets to that position. They will want to inflate numbers. They will harass coppers to give them ballot papers to thumbprint and drop in the ballot box. Please tell them it is not allowed, because not only will everything they've done from 8:30 to 2:30 will be waste, because the election will be cancelled. Everyone who comes to accredit, that information is stored in the BVAS, and that is what will be used for collation at the collation center. So this must be told to your people. You have to make them understand that. A personal experience, what I do is, because I always tell coppers when I'm training them for elections that they need to be really smart. Yeah, because there are times that they will approach you, give us extra ballot paper, and you are in a strange place, you don't know these people, you don't know if they will harm you, So what I do is I try to explain to the people, I'll tell them, so it's either you have these 100 votes that are sure, or you get 500 votes that will be cancelled later, because I promise you these votes will be cancelled once it is compared and it is seen that it is overbloated, the numbers. So yes, these are the basic things at least. First, take your PVCs to the polling unit. Secondly, smile. If they are going to use facial accreditation to accredit you, please smile. They are not trying to make you feel small or whatever. It's just the way the technology is. Yeah, it captures faster when you actually smile. And then thirdly, make sure you stick to the accreditation numbers in the BVAS. Don't ask for extra ballots. If not, your results will be cancelled. And then also, they should fight against manual accreditation. It is not allowed. The same thing will happen if they allow manual accreditation. Because if you allow manual accreditation, it means the BVAS has not captured that person's accreditation. The same thing will happen. The election results will be cancelled. So these are the basics, really, when using the BVAS during election. It's actually very straightforward when you get into the field. Collation of results. Collation of results happen after everyone has voted. Ballot has been counted, and calculated at the polling unit. So basically, collation of results is the tabulation or summation of votes as per an election. And collation is like the final. It's what will determine if an election was credible, if an election was fair, because you can do everything right, and then you come to collation, and then the whole election is called into question because you mismanage collation. So collation is very important during election, and there are levels to collation. Different elections, depending on the elections. Some elections have just one level of collation, some have two, some have three, and some have as high as 4. For presidential elections, for example, the levels of collation are up to 4 because the collation starts at the ward level, and then it goes to the local government level, then it goes to state, and then it goes to the national level. Now, one thing with collation that is different with collation for this election is that there's a lot of technology being imputed into the system, just like with accreditation. Before, collation used to be a strictly manual process. You move results from one place to the other manually. You travel through really nasty roads and really dangerous environments just to take election results to the next level. But now collation is done, it's done with some sort of hybrid method. You transmit electronically, and then you take the hard copy physically to the next level. Now, the reason why it is hybrid is that so you can compare the two results. Yes, there's an electronic copy and there's a physical copy. You compare them to be sure that nothing has happened to either one of them. And under the Electoral Act and the INEC regulations, where there's a discrepancy between the two results, the transmitted result actually takes precedence. So this is one thing that your people also need to take into consideration, that while following their results from one collation level to the other, they need to make sure that whenever a problem arises, because some collation officers for some reason may not be, this is a new law, we're dealing with a new law, we're dealing with new regulations, and training is usually not adequate because we are doing, INEC is doing like sharp training, basically like a week to election or a few days to elections. So it's usually not adequate. And you may find some collation officers who are not really versed with this process. So you need to tell them to look out for instances where there are discrepancies between the transmitted results and the hard copied results. Anytime this happens, they should call the attention of the collation officer that whenever there is such discrepancy, transmitted results, electronically transmitted results will always take precedence. That's what the law says now. That is what the law says now. So like I said earlier on, there are levels of collation. For state governorship elections, for example, you have about 3 levels of collation. After voting at the polling unit, the results are, ballots are counted, and then results for that polling unit are pasted on the wall. The election officials will then move to the next level, which is where collation starts. Collation starts usually at the RA level, which is ward level. You move for governorship elections, you move from that RA level to local government level, where the elections from all the local governments, from all the wards will be collated and calculated and then transmitted to the next level, which is the state level of collation, where election results will also be collated and then a winner will be announced and returned. So these are basically it repeats itself all over again when it comes to presidential elections. Then if it is State House of Assembly elections, usually it may just end at the local government level, where that constituency is made up of only one local government. Collation is it could be complicated if you are looking at it theoretically, but for those who have done election work, or for those who have voted through general elections or off-season elections, it's pretty much straightforward and all. So, if possible, let your people follow the results from one level of collation to the other, because my experience has been that sometimes results are changed sometime between one level of collation and the other. That's when the results get changed and all. Yes, there's a backup now because of electronic transmission, but still, changing of physical results shouldn't be allowed. Nobody should have to do that. Yes, somebody asked if there is a closing time for closing of votes. Yes, elections, I mentioned it earlier. Voting and accreditation and voting starts at 8:30 a.m. and closes at 2:30 a.m. But for some places, like there are places that are very difficult to get to, like you may have to travel from where the election materials are gotten from to those places. Sometimes you see a 2-hour journey on election day, So in such instances, time is usually extended for people to vote. But barring any of those issues, voting is between 8:30 and 2:30. Okay. Election observation. Like I said earlier on, this topic is meant to
wait.
be, this topic is meant to be election monitoring, yeah, but outsiders do not monitor elections, they only observe, and this is why. A monitor can influence the process, can tell election poll officials to do something, and they will do it because that's what a monitor does. But an observer cannot do that. An observer will just come, observe what is happening, and then write their report and then make it public or whatever they want to do with the report. So basically, how do you become an observer? To become an observer, you have to register with INEC, and you must be a registered organization. If you are not registered with the CAC, you cannot be accredited by INEC to observe elections. That is very important. And then observer groups, we usually, now the application is online and it has been done already. It closed last year. So if you were planning to observe, you can't observe, you can't apply for it anymore. You just have to find maybe an observer group that has already gotten accreditation.
Yeah, we actually have a list of the observers as well. Can you clarify the election monitoring agencies, because you said they are the ones that can actually give directives on change during the election. Is that correct? So who are these election monitoring entities? If you can just give us clarity on that so that we have that understanding. Are you frozen again?
You still there?
Yeah, she's still here. Okay. While we're waiting for that, I think this is a good opportunity for us to move into,
Okay,
are you back?
yes, I am.
Okay, so maybe turn off your video so that you have more bandwidth.
Okay.
Did you hear the question? That's
Yes.
the thing.
Yeah. So you talked about election monitoring bodies, different from observers, that those who are authorized to monitor the elections are the ones that can actually change some things during the election process. Can you give us clarity? Because I, for one, have been mixing both. So can you give us clarity? Bosun, please mute your phone. Bosun, mute your phone, please.
You come here. I come here, not always.
Let me see.
Okay, you can just mute everybody.
Yeah, I'm trying because I have to go through the list. Okay.
Okay. So yes, a monitor is usually a staff of INEC, like sent to the field.
Okay.
To make sure everything goes on well. You go to the polling units, you make sure that the coppers are, say, for example, using the beavers, the coppers are marking people's fingers when they vote, and generally make sure that nobody is doing the wrong thing. That's what monitors do. So a monitor can instruct a poll official that
but they are INEC staff, right?
Yes, they are INEC staff, basically. Those are
okay.
INEC.
Yeah.
Now, observers are not INEC staff. They are usually groups, NGOs, CSOs, yeah? And under INEC observation manual, you have two categories of observers, the domestic observers and then the international observers, like groups like the EU, USA, the UK government, those are the international observers. So that is the basic difference between the two. And an observer can be removed from the polling unit if he oversteps his boundaries. So an observer can be removed from the polling unit if he oversteps his boundary. An observer shouldn't tell a poll official what to do. There was this instance, I remember when I went for monitoring at some point, there was this observer that came into the polling unit. I was trying to tell the poll official to do this, do that, do that. So I had to tell him, you can't do that. It's not allowed. You can't tell him what to do. I get that you're trying to do the right, but the best thing you can do is to observe, write your report, and say what you actually observed during the monitoring. And he got offended and said that he would take it up in his report, basically threatened me.
Thank you, Amina. Can you just close so that we can, because of time? Do you mind just closing like a 30-minute close? Did we lose Amina again?
I think her voice is flaky. She's still there.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the good that comes from observing elections? I'll just talk about one. One of the basic good is it's a means of sharing experiences and learning from across different electoral processes. What do I mean by that? Usually INEC observes elections in a number of countries, and that's how INEC is able to, we like the experience in this place, maybe in Ghana, or in South Africa. We liked what they did in this place. So let's see how we can localize, some of their processes and some of their experiences. So it's a major way of learning elections, and it also helps to improve the process, basically. Because if INEC knows that the EU, some major local CSOs that are doing well in election work, are going to go around to observe elections. They will sit up, and then also some of those reports also serve as policy documents for INEC, because once a well-respected organization observes elections and writes a report, it serves as like a policy suggestion. Okay, you can do this and you can do that, and these are basically some of the advantages of observing elections, of election observation. So I think basically this is all I have. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Amina. We really appreciate that. And then I'm glad you're going to stand by for questions. And I think this is a good time for us to move into the next item on the agenda. Kyle Abbott and Pastor Eneda from ICON also have spoken with someone from the EU observers. I was calling them election monitors, monitoring entities before, but now EU election observers, and so they will give us an update. Kyle or Pastor Eneda, if we can just cut it to 3 minutes, because we have quite a few people on that will now speak. Is Kyle or Pastor Eneda? I see Kyle. Kyle, can you unmute yourself?
Yep. Here, I'll go quickly, and then Stephen can follow up. So it's the USCIRF, United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, is actually sending a delegation over a week before to work with IRI NDI, who's been there since probably October, November last year. So we're trying to prepare them and work with them to help them to spread things around. The thing I wanted to share in addition to all that is, even if you're not an official observer or a monitor, we are training people to use an app, which can be done from yesterday until the election, even after the election. So this app it provides it allows recording of photos, videos. Of course, you can't necessarily do it while you're at the polling station, but you can go back the day after. It allows the storage of the footage, the metadata to be stored, the geolocator to authenticate this sort of evidence. It also provides a custody chain of custody, so that's things that can be used. So if things do happen and you hear of them, you can record them. Say something happened on the election day, go back on the Sunday, go back to the site, record, type in the notes that you heard. It's a piece of evidence which can be investigated later on. So it's a useful tool that anyone can use, and we're trying to get as many people as we can to use this app, because it allows the things to be a little bit more credible on the individual basis.
So do you have the app and maybe like the instructions on how to use the app? Because that's something that we can definitely share. And the second thing that I would like you to just touch on is, we can't go, but we can participate or support observation. How can we do that?
Yeah, so for us, we're doing a training actually in 35 minutes. So anyone want to join that, that's fine, but understandable. It could be another thing to your day, but we'll do these trainings up until the election. So if anyone wants to see how the app is used, Lawrence, who's on this call as well, and I are working together to train. Lawrence is in Plateau State. We've got people trained in Kaduna, Benue, Chibok, and all over the place in the middle, mainly in the Middle Belt, but we're working wherever we need to work. So we can use the app. It's called Eyewitness to Atrocities. You can see it on just Google Eyewitness to Atrocities, and you'll see the app, and it'll explain its usefulness. It's connected with the International Bar Association in London.
So we will probably call upon you to do like that training for us at ALG.
Sure, yeah.
I'll coordinate that with you.
We'll put it as a separate thing, and anyone wants to do that training, we can give resources. That's not resources, but the materials that you need.
Okay, I'll definitely take you up on that. We'll take you up on that. So Pastor Eneda had, he wanted to speak. Thanks, Kyle. I know you had another training, but you made this one. So grateful for your time here. Pastor Eneda, is he still on? I know he just landed. If not, we can move on. Lara, do you have the agenda with you for us to just go through the list of who we have next?
I think Ireti is here.
Okay.
Does she have Ireti is here?
Ireti wanted to speak on misinformation and what we can do to help that, which is why we're here. So Ireti Bakari, Did we lose her?
Okay, she's there.
No,
Can you
she's here.
unmute yourself, please?
I'm going to make her co-host so that yeah.
She can, yeah.
Ireti, can you unmute yourself? We made her co-host. Yes, you're muted. I know you're on the
now.
road. Okay, good. Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, super. Sorry about that. No, I'm back home, luckily. Yes, good evening, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are. So, Jumoke, please ask me, because it's been a crazy mad day trying to get petrol money, yada, yada, yada.
You're speaking on misinformation and what we can do to help spread the right information.
This is a good one. Yes, this is a good one because incidentally, and I think perhaps mostly unintentional, there's a lot of misinformation being spread around, most especially with videos and things, old videos that are going to be, you're going to see a lot of that. A lot of old videos of perhaps, people rigging in the past that then become regurgitated and they're sent around viral like it's new videos, etc., etc. Unfortunately, with old videos, if you're already familiar with the story, with the video that you're able to say, oh, no, this was, the last election. We saw this the last time. But I think it behoves on all of us to actually kill as many fake news as possible. The best thing when it comes to elections and to actually be up to date as to what's going on, I will say is radio. TVs don't even have eyewitness reports that quickly. Radio it's organic, especially call-in radio. It's organic. The last local elections, I was on air and people literally call you from different polling booths and tell you exactly what's going on, what they're seeing. Now, in the diaspora, it's easy to get Nigeria radio now, very, very easy. So I would suggest you stay very close. There are several radio stations, so not the music radio stations, talk radio stations. For instance, I'm on Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info, we're doing election report throughout the day, literally throughout the day. I think we're going to be doing 2-hour slots each or something. So you'll be getting what's going on. People are going to be calling in because that's what we do. The TV as well. But for real time, are they asking me to be admitted? Do you want me to be admitted?
No,
I've got a message here. Justice entered the way.
Just no, go ahead. No, I made you
co-host.
right.
It's not me.
Go ahead,
then.
ignore.
Okay. All right. Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, yes, of course, watch the TV and stuff. But if you've got observers at different polling booths, then videos, and not to take anything for granted. The most innocuous thing could actually matter to whoever needs to actually go to court, in relation to that polling booth, for instance. So if you've got observers, I think I heard Amina's presentation, at least half of it, and I thought it was brilliant, really, really educative. So yes, that's the thing. The diaspora, unfortunately, because of not being on ground, tend to spread and respond and react to a lot of fake news, which of course they're getting from relatives, from the abroad, who, with all due respect, a heck of a lot are totally uninformed. Jumoke, you see what I do on Purple Women Foundation. I'm constantly, and if you're not sure, just ask them, is this verified? 9 out of 10 times you'll hear, I don't know. That's your answer. Because if you can't verify it, because they will get it from somewhere. They don't ask if it's been verified. They don't ask questions. Okay, fine, I'm a journalist. So that's how my head works. But each one of us should ask, is this verified? Oh, without making them feel bad. Okay, oh, this looks interesting. Is it verified? I need to know before I share it. Okay. And also, I wonder if there's a sort of central repository where the observers that you have on ground can. I heard there's a gentleman that spoke just now before me that said there's an app. Perhaps that's a central repository where they can just be loading all of these things, because so many will be going over all over the place, and then they can be verified later. That's really pretty much all that comes to mind. Of course, there are the sites where you can verify and stuff like that. But really what you get is a lot of videos. And no doubt a lot of them will be old videos that are being sent around again and again and again.
Okay. Thank you. Can you do us a favor? If you don't mind, send us a list of those radio stations that you think we can connect with, especially those of us in the diaspora. And that would be great. And then if you also have, that would be very helpful. Just send us a list of the radio stations, and then we can also share that with our folks back home.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. So Ireti is the founder of Purple Women Foundation, and so she's also a broadcaster. Thank you. I know you were in the queue, or on the queue for Petrol for God knows how long. So I'm glad you were able to make it home on time to join. Thank you for your time, sis.
Thank you. Can I drop out, or do you still need me?
Yeah, you could drop out, but please send the information about the radio stations.
I will. You'll get it by tomorrow, without a doubt.
Thank you. Thank you, love.
Excellent work, Ms. Jumoke. I've got to say, ALG is doing superb work. Really great work. Really great work.
Thank you. So you need to keep promoting us then, especially on Purple Women, because I keep sending the flyers there. Thank you.
Yeah, I just think that this is such an excellent call for those in the diaspora, and how I grew up there, and I know how disconnected or powerless one can feel, knowing this thing is going on at home, and you want to be a part, you want to add your difference, and it's not possible. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, love.
All right. Okay. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye. Who is next, Lara? We're going to try to run through this. Yeah. Who is next? I think Frederick is next. Is he?
Yeah, Frederick is next.
If we can just keep it to a couple minutes. Dr. Frederick. And then I believe next is Commander Alista, and then Prince Adewale, right?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Frederick.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm happy to be here. I just want to tell you what we are doing as an organization, the Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria. What we're doing from the diaspora is that we are using the social media to educate our people back home. And we've also done some posters. We are encouraging our members to deliver their polling units. Deliver your polling units. I have heard a speaker saying that you can take your mobile phones. You cannot take your mobile phones to the election ground, but we had an interview with Mr. Okoye, who is the education commissioner for INEC, and he told us that you can take your phone to the voting station, but you cannot use it in your polling booth. Please, we should underline that so that people will have the confidence to take their phones to the polling stations, because we need all the videos and all the results. We are all part of the system apart from INEC. So these are some of the things that we are doing as an NGO. So the idea is to make sure we also tell our people that this is the time we don't just send money home to people in Nigeria. If a carpenter is working for you, or somebody needs money for school fees or for feeding or for welfare economics, please show us your PVC. No PVC, no money from the diaspora, because if all is well at home, we will be rest assured abroad. Unfortunately, Nigerians in diaspora have been disenfranchised by the current government of Muhammadu Buhari, and we cannot vote. It's quite unfortunate that smaller countries are voting, but Nigerians in diaspora are not voting. And to complicate the matter, we don't have a board for the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. The Constitution of Nigeria permits a board to be set up for Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, where 12 Nigerians in diaspora should be, we are supposed to be part of the board, members of the board. And when you have board members like this, our voices as Nigerians in diaspora will be louder. But when you have just a sole administrator for NIGHTCOM as the administrative and financial head of the place, it's not good for Nigerians in diaspora. But the good news is that we have a candidate who has told us in his campaign promise, and I strongly believe him, that this will be the last time that Nigerians in diaspora will not be allowed to vote. And based on that, we endorsed him, and I'm going to use the opportunity to say it because he's our candidate that we have endorsed. Others have the right to endorse their candidate, and he's the person of Peter Obi. So we're doing posters for him and do a lot of conscientization for our people. So that is what we are doing as Nigerians in diaspora. So another thing we want to use this opportunity to tell Nigerians in diaspora is that one way that we can contribute to the voting system in Nigeria for us to be able to vote in 2027, according to Peter Obi, is to make sure that we deliver our units. It's very, very easy to do that. You have your local communities at home or please deliver your polling units and record the elections on video so that we can say, yes, I was able to deliver my units. So that is one thing I just want to say. And the last thing we are doing also is that we are trying to speak with our northern compatriots, because some imams have told them that this election is a jihad. It is not there in the Quran. There's no election that is a jihad. Let not people carry on with this information, misinformation from the imams who are telling them that, look, we are one people as a country. Nobody is fighting anybody, whether Muslim, Christian, and all that. We are one people, and religion is a private affair. So we're telling our people in the north that this is not a jihad, it's a simple election. Let's not allow people to divide us along religious and ethnic lines because of their selfish agenda. I think this conscientization is quite important, especially for our compatriots up north. So that is just what I want to contribute. Thank you for this program, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for all the work that you're doing. And if I can just also lend my voice to what Dr. Frederick said, we also need to unite as a diaspora body, not to join an organization, but to collaborate. We all have our different interests. We all have our mission statements, but when it comes to issues, we need to be able to collaborate on common goals. This is not a one-man show, and I'm so grateful and glad that a lot of the organizations have come together to do this, and we need to do more of this. Whether NIGHTCOM, whichever diaspora desk we have, as long as it is by government, they are going to, he who pays the piper takes the tone. So we need to have an independent diaspora body. And the only way we can get it is through collaboration, where we come together as a united force. You can go do your thing when you need to do your thing, but we all need to come together to support each other. for this diaspora desk that we're looking for, diaspora board that we're looking for. Just wanted to add that. And I think it's a good segue into unifying the country by Commander Alistair Shoyode. Commandant.
Hi,
Commandant.
good evening. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a pleasure to be here, and great job as always. So we are here basically to have a conversation and then to see what we're talking about when we're talking about uniting or unifying the country. My country, Nigeria, the most populous Black nation, for me as a former diaspora chairman of the global think tank of Nigerian professionals outside the country, as somebody as well who ventured into the politics of the country from about 2017 politically, setting up a movement called Yes Nigeria Movement to go into the villages and rural areas to inform the people about the opportunity and the possibility for them to identify candidates within their so-called political parties, whatever party they belong to. Let them support the grassroots leaders that they have identified can be candidate for them. And with that, the Nigeria's movement started going into the villages, and they were sharing this information to as many people that they come across. And that went for a very long time until the emergence of 2018 and then 2019 period. Now, what gave birth to the Yes Party is from the conversation that people are having, trying to bring them together to identify and unite to pick their candidate. And from that perspective as well, we went into the trenches and then meet the other political parties, political leaders to have a conversation. Now, from the diaspora point of view, as we have identified, yes, we have the NIDCOM, which is supposed to be a template and an avenue for all diaspora organizations and the diaspora people to come together. That is something that is still happening. But of course, we made the target point, which has been able to vote in this 2019. For me, as one look at it, what brings the country together? Being a northerner and a southerner, I'm a northerner and a southerner in my parental line. So my parents are from the north and the south, and I classify myself to be a singular Nigerian, not from any part of the angle. Religiously as well, many Nigerian families do have members from both religions. And the most critical aspect that we have to look at is that religion really plays a major role in our country. But nevertheless, when it comes to political time, everybody tends to play on that platform, on that part of claiming to be either Muslim or Christian, which is not a wrong thing because everybody has his own belief. But nevertheless, we have to look at what is a singular thing that we can say bring Nigerians together, if any. The reality is you might look at it from the point of having the same challenges facing each Nigerian. That actually, when you look at this, maybe these are the things that really unite Nigerians, because many Nigerians have been marginalized in their daily living, have been marginalized in terms of education, have been marginalized at work, they have been marginalized almost everywhere. So marginalization unites the Nigerian people. What we are seeing over the last days now or weeks to do with the Nigerian Naira being exchanged or changed or redesigned, again, has united the Nigerian people. Politics 2023 really did not unite the Nigerian people, but at least it united each party to toe the path of what they want to achieve in 2023. Now, I always say that as well that I'm not too sure anybody know who the devil is. Anybody know the devil? So nobody knows the devil, which is very good. But I always added as well that even the devil has his own followers. The devil, the shaitan, the evil one has followers. They have people that worship the devil. So if people will have, if the devil will have followers and worshippers, then I mean any politician should not be judged and query why does he have followers in millions? Because even the devil has followers in millions. So every politician deserves what they have. Technically, for me, really, we have to look at what really brings the Nigerian people together. Is it the challenges that we're going through that bring us together? Is it the opportunities that we encounter on a daily basis that bring us together? Is it the brutality of the government that brings us together? There are many things that should unite us. Nevertheless, we are yet to get to that point. And it is very hard now to explain to the Nigerian people what it is to call gain profit, because many Nigerians are actually in pain and they're not making profit. But the uniting factor for every single Nigerian, I think, is that word called Nigeria, that country called Nigeria. Either from the 1914 that we amalgamated or joined together, but the country geographically of more than 200 million people is what unites us. And collectively, we must find things that really will strengthen and provide the good leadership and governance that the Nigerian people desire. As I said, the last line of the Nigerian pledge is, "So God help us." And indeed, God has made the provision to help us, and he has actually helped us. 2023 is just 3 weeks away from today. By this hour, on the 25th, in 3 weeks' time, many voters will know who they have actually voted for. And we hope that the outcome of 2023 election will unite the people, and the people will stand on the mandate of what they have actually voted for. With all this technology, I believe that rigging would absolutely reduce. With the technology, there will be better articulation, better delivery of the election on the 25th through to 11th of March 2023. And for the diaspora, really, likewise, as some of the speakers are alluded to, we need to find the reason why we should unite to see a greater country, Nigeria. We live abroad, we experience what is happening here, and we want to replicate the same. And as I said, that is the reason why the Yes movement started in Nigeria in 2017, 2018. And somehow we end up becoming a political party. We spend a lot of money, I know what we're talking about, but we became a party. And somehow, because we didn't win a seat in the 2019 election, according to the INEC regulation, which we didn't know at the time because it was just about 3 months to the election when we got the registration. But we know how much it is, we know how much it costs. And so when you look at the politicians standing out there at this minute, trying to unite the country, I tell you what, they're spending quite a lot of money. But nevertheless, again, everyone has to go by the law of INEC and the Constitution. I can honestly tell you that none of the political parties will scale through, because many of them would be disqualified. Because they have broken the law in terms of how much they raise, in terms of accountability, in terms of delivering the report of their annual political party structure. But here we are, we're all Nigerians, and I pray that what we say that unite us, which is the country called Nigeria, really gain the best in this 2023 election. And I thank you very much once again, and speaking from my hiding place. Until then, and have a wonderful evening, good morning, and good afternoon. God bless.
Thank you so much. You are a true organic Nigeria. Thank you so much for this. We're going to be having Prince Akinwale from the Diaspora Innovation Institute address us and had some input to this conversation. Prince Akinwale, can you unmute yourself, please?
The entire planning team, I'm very happy to be here. And like the earlier speaker said, a good job in trying to mobilize at this time. I guess this is a watershed in the history of diaspora engagement. Over the time, I guess we've been pushing this away, and I must be honest that when I heard that the diaspora voting bill did not pass, I felt like an illiterate, because I didn't even know there was a bill that was even going on at that time. So first of all, it's a challenge for us to be able to now say, you know what, we need to be on top of things regarding that, because I guess if we do the census here, I'm not sure if a lot of people knew that the bill did not pass, or even with the National Assembly at that point in time. So we haven't said that. We just need to really continue our efforts in terms of what we need to do. So at Diaspora Innovation Institute, we can be proud to say we are the first diaspora engagement private in Nigeria since 2012. And of course, we have offices in New York City, Lagos, London, Vienna. Of course, we're in Madrid right now, trying to do some European tour and some engagement as well. As a fast forward or proactive effort now, actually, as a matter of fact, previous hours before this, after talking to my very good friend and sister for a long time, we will be actually launching the Diaspora Innovation Institute voter education and political participation group, because we believe that at this crucial time, we cannot shy away from it. So a couple of things we have to do here. One of them is voters education. So we need to really make sure that our people back home, or even ourselves as well, we need to really be aware about things. So good job to the earlier speakers who are able to break down some of the processes for us, so that even when people say things, we can challenge them and say, look, no, this is not it. And we can even get them right, because information is now very powerful and it's even ubiquitous right now. So you can get information. So it doesn't really matter where you are. Then the other piece which we think we'll be able to leverage is networking with each other or with one another. That means business to business, organization to organization. So that's why we are so excited when we were really approached about this. We really just, let's jump in, because our engagement has to really go beyond investment. That's to go beyond philanthropy. Now it's critical because we are disenfranchised. So that's a big word, So we can vote, right? So if we are contributing 25 billion USD to an economy and that you cannot vote, we should be hungry, right? So the key now is that let's take our anger into how to create a lobby group. So that way, anytime that bill is going to come up, you need to make sure it passed. It's not going to be for mouth, right? We just need to really start the work right now. So that is the message we are passing. So I guess the collaboration can still continue, right? So again, the lobby group is legal, right? So whatever it is legal right there, we have to really do it. If you have to put money together to make sure that at least we really influence and let them know. Unfortunately, some of the legislature unfortunately still needs a lot of engagement and education, even how it is to even engage the diaspora. If you look at the numbers, right, even from the NIDCON, which is the national body for diaspora engagement, even from the public side, they've done a couple of good job in making sure that there are few states now that have diaspora commission or even diaspora ministries. So it goes beyond that, right? So what do they do to ensure that at least diaspora needs to be engaged? So we are always talking about the economics part of it, which we continue to do regardless. In diaspora, we always send money home. It's in the water, right? So we're going to do it. So, but the key is that how do we continue to make a change from the political side? We can't run away from it. Some of us we're over 50, so we've been away for even half of our lifetime. So, and we are building a generation that may not even have an impact back in Nigeria because of our children, for the kids that we have out of the country. So we have just to, at this time, leverage the structure, the information, the knowledge that we know in making sure that we really participate actively. So our plan is to create, number one, a voter education enlightenment. Then number two is to really create a lobby group to even have that in the National Assembly. Anything about diaspora engagement, we need to really be there to really let them understand more of how we need to be engaged, to let them know that even our economic impact cannot be just put aside. We are just like a contributor to the economy, and we cannot have a seat on the table. We are sitting on the floor, if I can put it that way. You know what I mean? So again, we are tired of sitting on the floor. We want to step up and sit on the chair and be on the table. So the subgroup has been launched, the Diaspora Innovation Institute. So we will be leveraging and reaching out to all the partners and see, and this should not be a one-off thing. Of course, it's very close to the election, but now towards the next election, we need to have a plan. Even when we're working with international organizations, if we're working with the media, we have to have a continuous plan so that it won't be just like a fire brigade approach where it's a couple of weeks, a couple of months to election, and now, diaspora is just showing off. No, we have to show up all the time. So now is the time we have to really start. So I really thank again the leadership for giving us the opportunity to really partner with this. And we cannot just say it's a great time for diaspora. We have so much harnessing our resources. Human capital is there. A lot of professors, a lot of academic people in the academic who will be willing to really make this not only even in cash, even making contribution technically. So we need to really let them know, our homeland know that we're not just like contributing Naira or Kobo or USD or foreign exchange. We can do more by contributing human capital, and that is even priceless For instance, if someone is sitting in California and is teaching a class in Akure or a class in Owerri, or even back in Kano State, you can't put a price on that because it goes beyond just that knowledge sharing. It's just a matter of just enlightening the people about this is how much experience that we got abroad, and we are really willing to really give back. Thank you again for the time. I don't want to bore you, but that is our presentation at Diaspora Innovation Institute. So we'll be launching that subgroup, and you'll be having a kind of interaction and collaboration very soon. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Prince Akinwale. Thank you. We're going to be moving swiftly. We have Dr. Nelson. Pardon me, Dr. Nelson from CCND. Can you unmute yourself, please, and lend your voice to this conversation, please?
Hello.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Is yours.
Oh, so I went to. You said Dr. Nelson. I wasn't sure which of them. Is it Dr. Nelson and Luya or? Oh, which one? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is better.
I know. I'm in between work, so.
No, we can't catch COVID.
No, you can't. You know, like I always say, you find time for the things that are important to you. So, and that's why whether I'm at work or whatever, the issue that concerns Nigeria concerns me, in all of its ramifications. And I must thank, you all, Sister Jumoke and the entire team that has been able to put this together. It should be a long time coming. It's about time we begin to actually come together to have a discourse. For so long, we've asked that we come together. I know each and every one of us being Nigerians were champions in whatever we do, and we do them very well on our individual spaces. But we all almost to recognize as well that as we do the things we do, we're doing them in small pots. And like they always say, power is most effective when concentrated. And that's the reason why we must come together, begin to concentrate our powers. Because often enough, we work in silos. Now, but that has to stop, because those who are against us are very organized and they're intentional. For those who want to do good, they must organize and be intentional as well. And that's what I must begin to say. Again, you find time for the things that are important to you. This is important, and that's what each and every one of us are here. And I thank everybody for doing this. Kurt creating this time, wherever they are in different parts of the world to join. The issue of Nigeria, I hope I'll be able to put it in perspective of how important it is that we must work. This generation must. As much as our forefathers, and the story of Nigeria can never be complete if the story of Africa is not told, and the story of the entire Black race is not told. It's never complete. And I'll say it this way. Nelson Mandela and so many people have always said it, that the rest of Africa and the entire Black world is waiting on Nigeria. And people tell me this all the time. Dr. Luya, you guys are so great. You're smart. You have the smartest people. You have this, you have that. What is wrong with Nigeria? We're all waiting for you guys to come together and get your acts together so that we as a people in Africa can begin to move forward. Look, Africa will not move forward until Nigerians begin together and move forward. And I tell you this, the entire Black race would not move forward until Africa moves forward. And guess who's going to move the Africa forward? Not necessarily those in Africa itself, or even those in Nigeria. Because you know what? They've, a lot of the time, because of the structures on ground, both internal and external, have frustrated the efforts of individuals within the country and outside, and clipped their wings. And I use the word again, internal and external. There are people who do not want that country to move forward, externally and internally. And we must recognize that as we begin to come together to strategize, we must understand this as well. But coming to the issue of those who will liberate or save the African continent and the entire Black race, again, Africa will not move forward until Nigeria move forward. The entire Black race will not move forward until Africa move forward. Because you know why? No Black man on earth, any day, anytime, anywhere, will be respected until the African is respected. So the disregard and the rubbish that we get as Black people here, even in the United States, is through the purview of which they look at all Black people, even in Africa, period. So for the Black race, anywhere to move forward, Africa must do. But I tell you this, the Africans who would do that are the Africans who are you and me. The Nigerians who would do that are the Nigerians who are you and I. And that's why we must get it together. Now, how do we get it together? Fine. We must find platforms like this where we talk, I'm intentional, and have items that work on and move on and come back and report those items. In the common word, they say deliverables. And like one of my brothers said just now, look, the diaspora voting was going on. How many people knew about it? A lot of people did not know about it. When it failed, how many people knew about it? A lot of people did not know about it. Now, what does that mean? It therefore meant that organizations within the diaspora failed. We failed our people because we know how to push backward parties and whatever and throw the flyers around, but we don't push the agenda that will save each and every one of us. Eventually, it just means that we're not serious. We really are. But again, I thank the platform for doing this. Like somebody said, it's a watershed moment, and to a point where we begin to recognize our strength, pull our resources together. And for some of you who've heard me talk about resources, it means time, money, and intellect. Some people have the time and the money, they don't have the intellect. Some people have the intellect, they don't have the time or the money. But whatever you have, bring it. This is the time that we must save our country. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you for your inputs in the conversation. And I think we have next now Professor Osakwe. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. With SADU Union.
The South
if you
African,
can unmute yourself.
I don't know if he's on. I haven't seen him.
Are you
if he's
on?
not, maybe we can have
If
Dr.
you're
Z.
not, then Dr. Z Ngeri can go on. Dr. Ngeri of NIDO.
Dr. Z, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Dr. Z is not unmuting himself. I'm not sure
maybe
if he stepped away. Okay.
Is this
so we
there?
have quite, we wanted collaborating organizations to have a couple of minutes. So maybe we'll keep it to one. Jewels of Africa, maybe you can speak and then
let me speak
in the absence of anyone, because Dr. Z is not, I don't know what's happening with him. And then maybe we can just round off and take the action items. We have 2 hands up too. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
I stepped away
go ahead,
from
sir.
the phone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank this group for putting this together. And if we can continue things like this, the change we're all expecting in Nigeria, we will get it. I want to use this opportunity to encourage every group. That is my message. To encourage every group in the diaspora to do whatever they can financially, academically, and politically to see how we can influence the election going on in Nigeria now, because it's a turning point. If we don't fix it now, we can never fix it in our generation. So whatever anybody in this entire group can do, whether you from NIDO, from NALA, from ALG, from all groups, let's let's all hands be on deck, because this is our chance. After now, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible for it. So let's all do something. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I'm going to quickly speak to US of Africa Foundation, which I preside over. Besides my engagement and work with the African Leadership Group and the Rebuild Nigeria Initiative, I preside over an NGO called Jewels of Africa Foundation, and we've been augmenting public school education in 7 states in Nigeria since 2013. The states we've been operating in, Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, all the really South, Lagos, Delta, and we have 7 states we operate in Nigeria, and then we do some work in Ghana. I wanted to speak more importantly about what we've been doing on the Jewels of Africa Foundation side regarding our impacts in this election. And I encourage every one of us that have one NGO or the other to see how we could pivot our efforts as well to drop some salt into the narratives and this election to make sure that our voice is heard and we're really playing our roles well. So what we've been doing, because part of our programs, the Jewels of Africa Foundation, is we have scholarship programs where we have some of our students that we're sponsoring in most of the universities in Nigeria. So we've been having sensitization, again, this political education around campus. So they've been calling me into actually engaging the students, because most of them, unfortunately, haven't voted in the past, but they're going to be voting this time. So the conversation is going on, and we all know that the youth make about 60 to 70% of the voting bets, the people that are really going to make impact in this election. So we need to play our roles there. And the little way we are playing our role as Jewels of Africa is to really engage these youths, to go out there, to go with everything that they have, work with everything that they've been hearing through the media channels, and make sure that their vote counts. And so some of the takeaway from this conversation today, I would encourage every one of us, even people without an NGO, you have people that you have been fueling, you have people that have been dependents of yours in Nigeria. You need to make your voice heard. That's the only way. They said you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force that horse to drink. And we need to show Nigerians how to really fish for themselves, how to fend for themselves, how to liberate themselves. Since we cannot vote on this round, well, so we need to divert all of our energy, all of our effort, all of our frustrations, whatever it might be, to impacting this coming in election, the readiness to go in, what to do when they're there. And after the elections, we need to raise our bar in terms of becoming a watchdog to the governments at hand, watching them, monitoring them, and be that, and then we cannot afford to sit on the fence anymore. Diaspora voting, we'll come back to that post-election, being part of the narratives. That's really where we can start to make, move the needle in the affairs of Nigeria, the common goal that we all desire, the greater Nigeria, the better Nigeria. We need to put our voice on the table. If we don't have nonprofit organizations, find one that mirrors your passion and join in whichever way you can, with your time, with your resource, with everything you have, with your influence and with your presence. So I want to encourage each and every one of us to come out of this conversation today and act. Enough of conversations around what's not well with Nigeria. Let's be part of the solution and let's act accordingly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So we have 3 action points that we want to take away after this. I would just want to appreciate everyone for sticking with it. We know time is fast spent, but this is our first meeting, so we really appreciate you.
So
Victor, can you please mute your phone? Can you mute your phone, please? Thank you. Unfortunately, Collins Ikegunu from NIDO South Savannah had to drop off. He had a slight emergency, so they are one of the collaborating organizations for this program. And the other person that we would like to call just 1 minute, sir, is Dr. Oludare Ogunlano from the Central. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the name from Dr. Oludare. Can you please introduce yourself very briefly and your organization, and then you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council for African Security Affairs, yes.
Council for African Security Affairs based in Houston. And what we do is that we elevate human security concern to the forefront of public affairs, policy formulation and implementation. I've listened to everyone here today and so impressive. But I want to tell you that the main threats to our election and our electoral infrastructure in Nigeria today is government is threat. This election is going to go on peacefully, except they create any kind of artificial crisis to sabotage that election. So because people are desperately looking for that thing. So once again, thank you for what we said here. But let me say one thing about the diaspora movement and the observers. All these diaspora movement and observers are always tied to one particular interest, one political party. It has always been the pattern. And we just have to decide on what we want. So, and also on the issue of election awareness, I want to tell you that people who are going to vote in Agege, some of us we are going to vote in Ajangbadi, don't be surprised to understand what they need to do and also risk their lives to ensure that they protect their vote. But the reality is that the elite, particularly those who speak up and down about having good system, we collude with this elite to be able to suppress the wishes of the people. And what we are doing in Council for African Security Affairs is to work with the international community and our partners to deepen the process and back it all with appropriate tools and technology so that we can have transparency and have integrity and credibility for our election. For instance, someone talk about misinformation. The invention of misinformation and disinformation or manipulation of the media is one of the common communication strategy deployed by the kind of hostile government and authoritarian government, which of course we have now, and the political parties. And all of them, they leverage what we call the modern technology, as we are using technology, especially the current artificial intelligence to distribute and mislead people, give different kind of information. These political parties operators, including their government cyber troops, they continuously create content such as memes, videos, fake news, and we are still going to find some of them in support of what the woman said earlier on. So what we do, we share intelligence based on need to know and making sure we have counter narrative against misinformation and also expose all kind of foreign actors like what we have in Cambridge Analytica, last election, which of course we had in Nigeria, all those foreign actors. We make sure we share the information, we have counter narrative to be able to counter that and inform appropriate authority. We also ensure, work with people to ensure that electoral offenders are punished. It's not about people waiting to have their food, check everything. It's about people sponsoring people to actually disturb the election and even kill people in the process of doing that. So, and that's why you see the US government saying, okay, we are going to ban some of you from getting visa. They will do more than that, as time goes on. So we work with experts to ensure our electoral infrastructure are not compromised. Yes, good. We have BFAS, we have technology. I'm a cybersecurity expert. I've been teaching cybersecurity for the past 20 years. The reality is that technology will get compromised when people get compromised, and the elite, they are going to compromise that. But we want to ensure that the kind of infrastructure they have, it's not compromised. Also, we are working with partners on the judicial reform. The reason people get away with whatever they do in Nigeria is that whether they do whatever is because no consequences for everything. We are working on judicial reform. Kodebele Fadili has traveled on several occasions to make sure that they train our judicial official to ensure that they reduce corruption as much as possible for our judicial system. And when we have that, I think we are going to have a place to call our home. I agree with Dr. Aluya. Africa will not be respected. This king will not be respected until Nigeria get it right. The moment Nigeria and South Africa get it right, Africa is going to be respected. They are not going to talk to you that you are fast again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. And then we definitely will be calling upon you if you have information, if you have maybe like guidelines on what you're doing that you could share. There's a link that you can share with the platform, that would be great. We're just going to, there are 3 hands up. We are going to round off now. This has just really been a great conversation, and I'm hoping we can have more of it. I would also ask, I know most of you here, but if you could just drop your information on the chat. This is not a 1 minute, it's not a one-day conversation. It's going to be ongoing. We all have a lot of diaspora initiatives that we are working on, but as we've all said, we can only do this as a unified entity. Whatever we're doing, if it's siloed, is not as strong. And I like the words of Dr. Aluya, where he said we can only do this together, that there's power in our strength, in our unity. Thank you. Mr. Benedict, I'm sorry, if you can introduce yourself, which organization you're with, and we're just going to keep it to 1 minute, please. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay, good evening from here, Nigeria, and morning from wherever you are, and good afternoon. My name is Prince Benedict Nyewenyi, fondly called General Benedict Nyewenyi Sot. I am an executive member of the.
You are muted. Okay, you were muted. We missed the organization.
Also, I said I am. Nigeria. Also, the convener of the Southeast Presidential Mandate. And I am a rebrand ambassador of the People's Democratic Party, but we are not here for party discussion. We are talking about the general election 2023 that is just few weeks away from now. I was one of the diaspora stakeholders. I was formerly in UK and then back permanently. And see, I still have interactions with many of the diasporans. Many of them, some of them who already had made speeches here. I know them. And then some of you who have not known me, we have had engagements, and then several of the NIDO and NITCOM engagements we have always had met in Abuja and other states. So going straight to my point, honestly, the diasporans are the measure of all that Nigerians need in the area of what we call strengthening the physical and structural democracy. Secondly, the diasporans are the ears, they are the eyes of Nigerians when it has to do with international community. Diasporans have a lot to do as an engagement, especially information dissemination. You see, Nigerians, we are crippled here because some of the information we do have are always guided by the National Communication Commission and then the National News Agency of Nigeria. There are certain things that happen that most of people outside the country don't get as information. But you see, we thank God for, you see, just like what we have now, we can always do what we can do. And then we are saying that what we need diasporans at this particular time to be very much engaged, because the time is not that much for you people to get engaged in this election, because you have the effect from diaspora is not much, but except for information dissemination, for you to be able to capture at every point in place, time, and in states, whatever is happening anytime. That will serve as a guide. That will keep INEC on check. That will enable most of the rigging processes to be countered. That will help a lot of anomalies, and a lot of things that are happening in Nigeria. You understand, to stop. So what I'm saying, the diaspora, you have been acting. You've been acting on so many guides, especially your remittances, the lot of things you do with NITCOM that we have always witnessed, the diaspora voting that has always been in the National Assembly are the things that we have been fighting, but there is no collaboration with all diasporans. We are looking for a medium where all diasporans outside wherever the continent or the country you belong, and you have a body that can ordinarily represent or form a synergy that can actually make a kind of a bridge between us and the people, that you people over there. I have tried to do that, but you see, There are Nigerians who do not, there are a lot of Nigerians who do not actually want good things to happen in Nigeria. But we have a lot of expatriates, Nigerians who are
Yes,
engaged in professional activities. And so, see, we all need these people to come together. When we know that the lives of these our Nigerians is very, very important to us and to diasporans and to international community.
Yes, we believe we're on the path to doing that, sir. So thank you so much for your comments.
Diasporans, wherever where we are, to come together so that
yes.
Tell
you keep getting unmuted.
Of Africa. If we get it right, yes, if we get it right, then Africa will get it right. Yes,
thank you, sir.
Africa is the destination point of the whole world. Yes, please, thank you. I have a lot of things to say, but with the time,
this is time has gone, and this is just it's the beginning of conversations, and we are hoping that this is a new opportunity for us to come together and collaborate on initiatives or issues that is of common interest to all of us. Thank you very much. Dr. Benson, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think I'm going to be very brief because I believe that's you're getting to the point that I wanted to raise, which is what are those concrete actions that we can take? And I've heard everybody say, let's all get involved. Let those in the diaspora get involved. But what does that really look like? We heard one of the earlier suggestions about observing at the polling stations, and very concrete, and what it takes to be an observer. There was a mention of the app and being able to document what we are seeing, people are seeing at the polling stations, recording them, taking photographs and reporting on them, putting it in the app for everybody to see. So those are very concrete things. There was a mention of providing resources to support those at home and encouraging them to go out and vote, and guiding them in terms of what are the characteristics to look for in leaders as they are going to the polls. And these are very critical things. But are there other concrete actions that we can take? Maybe in addition to these ones, 1, 2, 3 additional top actions that we in the diaspora can take, because we cannot vote. For those of us who cannot vote, what else can we do to ensure free and fair elections for those who are in Nigeria today? That is a critical thing that we need to address. So Jumoke, I'll turn it over to you to wrap up with that.
Thank you. We have just one hand up, and then we can round off with everything with the points that Dr. Benson has highlighted. Peter Isaac, please go ahead. Please keep it to 1 minute, please. Very brief.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Isaac. I'm a digitization advocate, tech enabler, and startup ecosystem developer. Now, I appreciate, in terms of action points, I will appreciate the diasporans we have the polls and the post polls. The pre-polls, a gentleman talked about how we can influence the voting. I will tell you the best way to get Nigerians is meet them where they are already. Influencers are the biggest people shifting thinking in Nigeria, no matter how much you believe or you don't believe it. Micro-influencers, Nigerians are stuck on their phones. They are watching comedy skits. If the diasporans can rally around those guys and get them to create content, those are the people that Nigerians are listening to. They don't even listen to government. And the people that are swaying the votes are using them. They are using them so badly. So if the diasporans can pull funds in that aspect, influencers, get them to create as much skits, comedy skits, because Nigerians are using that to relieve the stress and the pressure. But while they're doing that, their minds are being reprogrammed, and that will take place. That's our strategy, and we can sit down and talk about the poll day and the post-poll strategy. I think that's one of the areas the diasporans can make huge shifts in influencing the voting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So this brings us to a close. Dr. Ayodeji Famuyide, please, just 1 minute, and that's going to be the last hand. Sorry, we've really gone beyond time. Go ahead, sir. Just 1 minute, sir, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to piggyback on what the last speaker said. In that direction, you can add some radio or TV jingles into it, encouraging them to go out and also ensuring security and non-violence approach to the election coming up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that brings us, when we sent this agenda out, we had 3 action items that we're thinking about, which is advancing the education. And I use the word our people because we reach them. We actually we can reach more people that social media cannot reach. We can reach the people in the rural areas that don't have data on their phone to go on Twitter or to go on Facebook or Instagram, but our phone call can do that. So that's one of the reasons why we felt it was important for us to have the right information that we can share with our people as we send them money, as we call on the weekends to see how they are doing. It's important for us to impress upon them the information that we have, not just what we've gathered a lot of information here, but we also have that responsibility to share accurate information to make sure that our fellow diasporans are also well informed and they can in turn pass on that information to our people back home. The second action point was, how do we support the integrity of free and fair elections through engagement and collaboration with accredited international and national election observers? There's a list, and I would also be posting that list. They have different activities. They are always looking for volunteers. Some of us may be going home for the elections. How can we participate? How can we even engage them in some of the information that they have, what they've observed in the past, and how can we also make sure that we pass on the information of what people can expect at the polling booths. So I would also be posting that at the list of the accredited international and national election observers in the chat. Then the third and a very important action that we can do very easily is having press conference and press releases wherever we are. It's important for the international community to know that we are serious about this. The US has already enacted visa bans on bad actors. How do we get other countries to do the same? If US bans them and they can go to England, or they can go to France, or where they can go to the European countries and even Asia, we want to make sure that all the international community closes their doors to the bad actors. And they can only do this if we call upon them as a united body. So those are some of the actions items that we had listed. But again, Dr. Benson also articulated some that we can work on. And then at the end of all this, we want to have a communique and have all the organizations that sign on to those action points that we've taken from here to sign on to it, to say, yes, we're behind. And then we issue a joint press release that will go to everywhere we have Nigerians, and we continue this conversation. So that's just mine in summary. I'll turn over to Dr. Benson and Lara if they have additional comments, and then we close. So please go ahead and put your contact information in the chat if you want us to follow up with you.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for being part of this conversation. We know there are a million things you could be doing this hour on this Saturday, but you chose to be part of this conversation. So we don't take it lightly. We really appreciate that. This is really the beginning. And I hope as we all walk away from this conversation today, we would ask ourselves, what is the one thing I can do this week to impact this upcoming election that I can hone by myself, or join hands with somebody, with some group, to be that part of impact, and just move away from our position of talking about it and doing something about it. That would be my encouragement for all of us. And we're going to have a few more before the elections to just sync up and encourage ourselves. And as we check the pulse of what's going on, because the political climate is changing by day, actually by minute in Nigeria. We're observing it, and we would be calling on everyone that put their email address or contact on this so that we can come back together and rub minds together and strategize, with whatever we have in front of us. It's game time, really, from this point until the election day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sister Lara. And I'll just add to that, if for those of us who can vote, for those of us who are registered to vote and are planning to go out and vote, let's do that. Let us vote. The time is now. I also want to encourage every one of us. I know it looks like the future looks bleak right now when we look at everything that's going on in Nigeria. But I just want to say that Nigeria will rise again. Nigeria will be the giant of Africa once again. And so on that note, I just say I wish you all Godspeed and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I believe Mr. President is still on. Mr. President, do you have closing remarks? Maybe. Okay. He's muted. So thank you. I'll send this recording. I'll send the recording to all the groups. And so please feel free to engage any one of us in conversation on the next steps. Thank you so very much to all of you, to all the collaborating organizations for being here, for staying the two plus hours that we've been on here. Really appreciate you. And we believe that this is the beginning of great things together. Thank you. Have a good afternoon or good evening, good night, wherever you are, or maybe good morning in some parts of the world.
Good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Amina, for your time. Really appreciate you. That was very informative. If you can also share your PowerPoint, the slides, we'll really appreciate that. Uncle Afolabi, thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Or good night. Thank you. Have a good night. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good night. God bless you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending the time. We really, really appreciate everybody. And I'm sure Jumoke and the backend people will be able to get the summaries and the outcomes of these very deep and incisive discussions. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Jumoke, keep on doing the
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Uncle Falabi. Thank you.
Truly appreciate
Bye.
it.
Thank you, Jumoke.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
And there will
Bye-bye.
be discipline.
Mhm.
Don't worry, there will be discipline.
Amen. On the platform, right?
You
see,
know
I'm
what
giving
I
up.
mean. Don't mind them. Don't mind them. There will be discipline. Don't mind them. Even if they don't like it.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for always encouraging me behind the scenes. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you. Pastor Itwa, we have a fantastic person here doing the good
Pastor
work.
Itwa he's gone. He has said his good night. Thank you all. We appreciate you. And we'll work on this. Stalara will talk. And Mr. Is it General Bello? I'm not sure if I should call you General. I'm not even sure what the title is.
Just Raf is enough.
Otumba Raf.
Oh,
I think
Otumba,
I'm
just
safe
Raf.
with that. I'm safe
Raf
with
is
that.
good for me.
Yeah.
Raf is good
I'll
enough.
follow up with
yeah.
with Dr.
Ogunlano.
Ogunlano. Yes. Thank you.
He's in
Thank you,
Dallas.
everyone, for here. He's in Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. We'll definitely
Thank
be
you,
following up. We
everyone.
need to have this. Yeah.
Please
Thank
do.
you, Prisa Kinwale. Greetings to Madrid. And we'll follow up. We'll chat on the next steps.
Absolutely. Looking forward. Thank you so much for putting this together and for inviting us at this crucial time as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Important. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone. God bless you.
And you too. Thank you.